We are well and truly into the spooky season, aren't we? We have horror movies releasing, Halloween-themed merch and lollies taking over stores, and of course, we have animated Halloween specials from some of the big animated studios. This is a time-honored tradition in the animation industry to have random one-off specials using some of the big characters and franchises. Shrek's done specials of all types. We've had Shrek the Halls, Scared Shrekless, How to Train Your Dragon's done it with shorts like Gift of the Night Fury or Homecoming. Most recently, we've been seeing some Bad Guys content with Bad Guys, The Very Bad Holiday, and then the Bad Guys Haunted Heist, which came out pretty recently, and which I did a video on just a while ago. It was mid at best, if you were wondering. So as we can see, there's a long and rich history of these sorts of things being released, especially from DreamWorks, but there's also a long and rich history of them potentially being of dubious quality. The best ones are the ones where the studio clearly cares enough to splash the cash. Good animation, good scripts, good music, and most importantly, they bring back the original voices to play their roles. Nothing takes me out of it more than hearing a voice actor's best impression. It can be painful at times, nobody wants that. It's just sad and awkward, but I suppose it's time to move on from all of that, as just recently, we saw the release of Sing Thriller, which is the first ever holiday special release for the Sing franchise. For those that don't know, Sing is one of Illumination's secondary franchises. In the off years where they're not able to churn out big box office smash hits with the Despicable Me/Minions franchise, they tend to release more minor stuff that doesn't get nearly as much traction. We're talking the likes of Secret Life of Pets, or The Grinch, or indeed, Sing. Films that aren't failures by any means, but they're not pushing $1 billion either. Although then, they also made the Super Mario Bros. Movie in an off year, and that was a bona fide box office sensation, so it's not like they're a one-trick pony either. But Sing, it fits firmly in that mid-tier of Illumination's filmography overall. For a quick refresher, Sing and its sequel, Sing 2, tell the story of Buster Moon, a theatre-owning koala living in a world of anthropomorphic animals. As he's a terrible businessman at first, his theatre is well and truly going under, which forces him to pull a scam singing competition to drive up interest and to make money, to save his theatre from debts, but also to pay out the contest winner. And it all goes to shit for him along the way, but in the end he triumphs and manages to save his theatre, or rather the ruins of his theatre. And despite being scammed and played by this guy, the singers willingly join his new theatre troupe, which benefits rather heavily from a generous patronage from the upper crust, and the newfound popularity of the group from his competition. The second film sees him take on a fictional version of Las Vegas and bring an old rock star out of retirement for one last show. These movies to me are just pure fun. That's all they are, that's all they ever needed to be. They don't have any intention of being pretentious and having some deep and meaningful hidden message. They're just animals singing and dancing to make you laugh and smile. Like I said earlier, they didn't exactly break the box office or anything like that. The first one grossed $634 million off $75 million, which is actually way higher than I thought it was. Wow, I really didn't realize how well it did. I've been selling it short this whole time. And for a COVID-hampered release, the second film grossed $408 million at the box office, which is really nothing to sniff at. It's a hugely successful property for Illumination. My God, they just keep winning. I guess they know what the people want. Except Migration. I don't see that one getting a sequel anytime soon. Beyond success though, like I said, the films were actually just fun. They knew their niche and they swung for the fences. They had a strong cast, fun character designs, engaging storylines, decent jokes, and best of all, the songs were upbeat and fun to listen to. Great covers. And really, it's just such a killer idea. Zootopia with singing and less societal analysis and messaging. I can get on board with that, not to hate Zootopia or anything like that, I love that too. Hell, give me all the films with anthropomorphic animals. They're just fun. Coming into this particular special, I don't think I was really expecting all that much. The last couple of specials I've seen were from the Bad Guys, and it's clear that they were made on the cheap. Not using very good animation, especially compared to the actual movie, and also they didn't get back the original voices, so you're left with some very pale imitations of the OG. On top of that, you have weak scripts, and you're left with a recipe for a not-so-good time, or at best, something that is the definition of mid. So this is what I thought Sing Thriller was going to be. It wasn't though, it was actually legitimately good. And right from the get-go it sucked me in. For starters, the animation, my God, the animation. It was actually legit. I don't think anybody would not be understanding if they hadn't bothered to splash the cash and simply made this thing on the cheap to get a nice payout from Netflix like DreamWorks has seemingly started to do. Fair enough. Instead though, they went all out and the quality feels the exact same as you'd see in the films. I think it probably comes with the trade-off of being much shorter than most short films and specials would usually be. They usually clock in around 20 minutes or so, but in contrast this only goes for half that number. But in the end, I think it works well. I'd rather have 10 minutes that are really fun and engaging compared to a full 20 minutes which is dull, boring, and plodding. Something that's a chore to get through and feels like it's wasted your time with its existence. On top of that, they even got the proper voice actors to come back and play their parts, and we're talking some real big names here. Yet they got them. They splashed the cash, and they didn't elect to go for the uncanny valley sound-alikes like so many other studios would these days. When did Illumination of all animation studios become the bastion of creative integrity and good business practice? I know a lot of people like to clown on them and degrade their films a bit compared to the likes of Pixar and whatnot, but Illumination fills an important and popular niche. Unlike everybody else, they almost never have a flop, especially after COVID. They've come out against AI in mainstream animation and filmmaking, and they seem dedicated to making their films and content as good as it can be, and as fun as it can be. Part of the fun of seeing is hearing those actors' voices and then hearing them singing the songs. So it's great they got them back. But now it's time to properly move on, and for us to talk about the actual plot of this 10-minute short. We start off the special by looking at the exterior of the Moon Theatre, with a bunch of those electric squid dudes that got put in the theatre dressed up in a little Dracula outfit for the grand opening of the new musical, GMO. I have to ask, what even is the life of the squid in this film? Are they sapient? Do they all just live there in the theatre? Is there some aquatic city beneath the terrestrial city for them to live in? Do they travel there via pipes? How do they wear clothes? There doesn't seem to be any furniture or possessions that these guys might own in the tank they live in. So for anthropomorphic animals, wouldn't this get super depressing? Who knows? This brings us into the first part of the short, a look at the first scene of GMO the musical. Borrowing from a lot of classic tropes, we see Mina in the starring role as a teenager who's waylaid on her way to a party and is swept into the dangerous world of GMOs, complete with zombie vegetables, a haunted castle, Frankenstein's carrot, and mad scientists. I also really loved this section because they just went all out into making it feel authentic to the experience of seeing a musical production in your home city, your local, with budget set pieces, like the little vegetables coming out of the floor, the so-and-so acting, and Mina getting thrown off by the audience heckler, but then mingled with insane set pieces and effects that stretch believability and just add some visual fun and excitement. In story, what was the budget for this thing? Look at the sets! I also really liked how they made the audience a character of its own that reacts to the musical, laughing at the elephant getting out of the tiny car, cheering when they see Gunter or Ash, or the random in the background calling out, "I'm here," when Mina's acting, asking if anybody's there. It just made it feel more real and authentic. On top of that, visually, this whole sequence was a lot of fun, but then you combine it with a good 3 minutes of Thriller, hell yeah, what a great song to choose for this. It got to the point that by the end of this opening segment, I was super hyped to see the rest of the performance. I'd forgotten I wasn't watching GMO the musical, and was instead watching Sing Thriller. I'm not gonna lie, but I kind of wish they made the rest of the musical and had more scenes, because from here on out the story just wasn't the same. It didn't have the same vibe anymore. Oh, I want more of this. This was peak. Don't get me wrong, it's not like the special becomes bad from here on out or anything like that. It just doesn't feel the same. It pivots into more trope-laden horror elements, and they're funny. We have the spill from a chemical lab of an ambiguous fluorescent ooze that mind controls people. We have a party at Clay's place with all the animals piling into the back of a truck, like a bunch of teens would in a horror movie. The group arrives at a seemingly abandoned house, having the suspense of waiting for that inevitable jump scare. Before we finish off this part of the sequence, with Buster and the old lizard lady getting chased around by everybody who'd been mind-controlled by the ooze and have become dancing zombies. And these dancing zombies do a big song and dance routine, the Thriller dance, and sing Thriller again. And it's not as exciting as the previous rendition if we're being real, but it's still cool, I guess. It just wasn't quite the same. And it's a bit strange to talk about it now, really, but it did make sense in the moment, and I was engaged with it then. You just had to be there, I guess. And then the whole special finishes off with something out of a Treehouse of Horror from The Simpsons or something like that, where Buster wakes up after being mauled by zombies, only to find that it had all been a dream. He'd actually been knocked out by some falling debris when he'd been getting ready to leave the theatre for the party, so none of that actually happened. Or had it? Ooh, spooky! Someone's been infected in real time, and it leaves you with that mystery. A mystery that will never be resolved, but that's okay. Didn't really care. Which in turn brings us to the end of the special. It was really good. It was very clear that the studio put a whole lot of love and care into it, but at the same time, it felt very, very front-loaded, and I did lose a bit of interest there towards the end. Plus, I think a couple more songs would have been nice. Maybe the zombies should have done a medley instead of just redoing Thriller, but I get they probably didn't want to blow out the budget for this thing even more. In the end though, it was really awesome, and is yet more proof that Illumination is the current king of animation, and they just keep winning at every stage of the game. You love to see it. And so with all that being said, that's the end of the video, and I would like to remind you, these have all just been my opinions, and I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of Sing Thriller? Did you like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.